What Stallone movie will I make fun of before starting the review today? None. Okay, before we go any further, I'd like to take a sec and address something serious. This past weekend, two rumors were floated around and were carried by legit, both movie news sites and actual news sources. The two rumors were that Christian Bale, and I'll start with this one because this is the more ridiculous, is that Christian Bale will be returning as Batman for Man of Steel 2 because Warner Brothers offered him $50 million. I'm going to take a second and see if anyone actually believes that. No? Good. Then apparently you are more intelligent than actual news sources. Because here's the thing. This source that these news sources got their story from was an ebook off Amazon that, upon investigation by several friends of mine who also have movie shows, say that according to the ebook, if Christian Bale is offered $50 million, he should take it. It is a hypothetical situation that both movie news sources and real news sources were running with. This is a problem. Never mind your thoughts on Christian Bale. Never mind your thought on Batman. This is bad. News sources need to check their sources constantly. Guess what? You may be giving up on normal news. If you're going to keep any integrity, keep it with something a 6-year-old couldn't figure out. This is wrong, and every news source in the country should right now be kicking themselves for making this mistake. The other one is that Hugh Jackman has been offered $100 million to come back for 4 more films as the Wolverine. This one I think is more of a false. I doubt anyone overly believes this, but news sources ran with it. Media, all forms of it. Stop just running with the initial story. You need to do fact checking. That's why people don't care about the news anymore. It's not because it's boring or because no one cares. That's part of it. The problem is that too many times media is either manipulated or stories are run with that are just for shock value and nothing else. So without further ado, cue title scene! Why should I start off with an unknown random news story, you might be asking? Because today I'm reviewing Rocky III, the one Rocky movie with no real opinion or strong foresight whatsoever. Why, you may ask? Because let's look at the Rocky movies like this. Rocky I, perfection. Rocky II, a good follow-up with what we all wanted to see. Rocky IV, America versus Russia. Rocky V, crap. Rocky Balboa, weirdly dramatic yet strangely sentimental. And this one, Mr. T, I guess. For those of you who don't know, Rocky III picks up 5 years after Rocky II. And in it, our main protagonist, the Italian Stallion, the Punching Fiend, the insert random nickname based on bad movies he's done here guy, Sylvester Stallone, aka Rocky Balboa, has successfully defended his title 10 times. He is a big name, he's got everything, he's got money, he's got homes, he's huge. He's got everything. His ego is out of control. Because that is what this movie is about. Ego! Because he gets challenged by the most dangerous, most powerful man to ever walk the earth. Mr. T. And Mr. T is playing Lang. And Lang is one scary-ass boxer. Lang can beat up anyone. And probably will. That's right. Mr. T himself challenges Rocky to a match to defend his title, claiming that Rocky is weak and that his fights are fixed. Who would believe such a thing? He's Rocky. We totally know everything about this guy. It's not like we've only ever seen him twice before, so we should totally believe that none of these fights have ever been falsified, even though clearly there have been evident cases of fights that have been faked. Even ones that cannot be confirmed, such as the Phantom Punch. And other ones. I'm not a big boxing fan. But that is in itself a good part for this movie. Even though, yeah, it sort of comes out of left field and there's a little bit of a jump to it. is an interesting concept because how often do we hear sports scandals? How often does stuff like this happen? How many times have we heard of things like this? That's the thing about the Rocky movies. 50% of them is looking at sports from, say, the perspective of someone who's in the middle of it. And why shouldn't Rocky be in the middle of it? Because, well, he is the middle. He's a champ, he's strong, he's tough, he's at the height of his career, or so he thinks. This film begs the question, did Rocky earn those victories? And for that, you'll have to see the movie. Once again, we do get a similar problem though as in the first one, or well, the last one, the second one, where a lot of the drama does feel forced and like it comes out of nowhere. It's not that you don't understand why it has to happen, but part of you does wonder why it has to work the way it does. Now, things happen to Mickey the trainer, played by Burgess Meredith, that basically end result in him having to be trained by a former arch rival and younger George Jefferson, Apollo Creed. You see, Apollo has to train Rocky to get ready for Lang. Basically, Lang and Rocky fight the first time, and he gets smacked silly. Rocky, I mean. Done, defeated, all that good stuff. And he has to be trained by his former rival, because, you know, you should totally be trained by a guy whose butt you kicked. Makes total sense, right? Yep, so. You know, this film has a lot of cliches in it, but you have to ask yourself, maybe this film invented those cliches. The thing that makes reviewing these movies hard is you're talking about something that's had a huge impact on pop culture. And you gotta wonder, what was it at the time? Were these things that we now hold as cheesy, are they cheesy because of Rocky? Who knows? It's hard for me to tell because, frankly, I don't want to review old movies for the rest of my life. I want to talk about current movies. I want to make fun of things. I want Jim Carrey to come in here and strangle me. Oops, I said too much. But, having said that, this film, you have to look at it for what it is, and that's as an objective movie. And the thing is that a lot of the execution is very good, but a lot of it sort of gets bad. The final fight between Lang and Rocky, to me, is the least believable of the Rocky fights. I don't know if it's just because Mr. T has such a big reputation of being this giant, hulking monster, or if maybe just by this point, you know, Stallone's just starting to come across as annoying. He's really annoying in this movie. You understand why. You're not supposed to like him for the first half of this movie, because all the fame has gone to his head. He's just become this arrogant, he thinks he can do anything, he thinks he's the best, you see him training, he just gets distracted. All of this is very good, but at the end of the day, he is unlikable. Do I think that's what Stallone was going for? Most likely. Does it work? Yes. Does it make the character harder in that aspect? Because it's a movie where you go into it thinking that's only going to be carried by Rocky? A bit. Is it still fun and exciting? Yeah. Now, again, if you don't care about Rocky, if you don't care about Stallone, don't see these movies. Because they are, you know, it's a Stallone-gasm. It's him becoming the big star of the 80s. All the action movies, all of it came from Rocky. And if you're going to go into these movies not caring about any of that, chances are you're going to be very split down the middle on them. But if you're a fan of Sylvester Stallone and if you're a fan of Rocky, you'll enjoy it. I did, and I really can't stand Sylvester Stallone. If you're not a fan, you'll probably still have a good time with this movie, not as intense as someone who's more of a Stallone fan. And because of that, I gotta give the honest, fair opinion 7 out of 10 on the sports movie scale. Once again, it illustrates a certain element of sports very good, but in a lot of ways, that's the big part of this movie. Could it have used, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Burgess Meredith, I think for this film, really phoned it in a bit. Mr. T, he's a nice guy. I've heard about him, I've heard he's a great human being, but he's not a great actor. The wife turned back into just being annoying, and like I said, Stallone's just really annoying. It succeeds in what it's doing very well, but what it doesn't succeed in is what brings it down. Remember, anything 6 or higher is a movie I liked. And trust me, we'll be seeing movies I don't like very soon. If nothing else, Jobs is coming out this weekend.